Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. Upon discovering that he is the rightful heir to the throne, an honorable warrior embarks on an insane battle to save his people from the rule of a tyrannical king. Today we will recap the story of the 2017 movie Bahubali, the conclusion. When he learns that his father was a great Mahishmati warrior, Sivudu asks Katappa, the army commander, to tell him the truth about what happened to Amarendra Bahubali. After the war against the Chalukyas, Bahubali and his brother, Balaladeva, proved to be warriors of great courage. However, for saving countless innocent lives during the battle, Bahubali was chosen by the Queen Mother to be the heir to the throne. The news soon spread and the whole kingdom began to celebrate, eagerly awaiting the coronation of the new king. To ensure the prosperity of the next reign, it is common for the mother of the future king to walk barefoot to the Shiva temple, which is about 50 kilometers away from the palace. So, Sivagami was the one who had to do this penance, and when she was in the final stretch of her goal, some elephants lost control. In an attempt to flee the attack, the crowd disperses, but the Queen Mother continues her walk with a torch on her head. Suddenly, one of those animals is seized with fury and rushes towards her. However, before it could cause any harm to Sivagami, Bahubali appears and uses a big cart to knock it down. In this way, his mother can continue the walk and fully fulfill her ritual. After lighting the fire, the woman hands a flaming arrow to her son and, with the help of the elephant itself, Bahubali hits his target. Over the next few days, he helps to look after the Queen Mother, who has been weakened by walking so long without wearing shoes. When Sivagami recovers, the young warrior returns to his place in the army and continues to protect Mahishmati from attacking enemies. His kindness and willingness to protect his people makes Bahubali even more loved by the nation, which arouses the wrath of Bijaladeva. The man never forgave his wife for choosing Bahubali as king instead of crowning Balaladeva, who is his legitimate son. His hatred is so great that he even suggests that Balaladeva eliminate the Queen Mother. However, as he is surrounded by loyal servants of the crown, the man does not listen to his father's advice and asks him to stop drinking. Being the eldest among his brothers, Bijaladeva was the one who should have assumed the throne, and this would give his son the right to rule. However, due to his disability, the throne was handed over to his late younger brother, Bahubali's father. Listening to the old man's complaints, Katappa says the reason he was not crowned is not because he has a handicap but because of his limited brain. Days before the coronation of her adopted son, Sivagami is looking for a wife for him. Knowing that this woman will also be the queen of Mahishmati, the woman needs to be very judicious in her choice. While evaluating the options, the Queen Mother orders Bahubali to travel to other lands throughout the country to learn about new cultures. During this journey, Katappa must accompany him and, that same day, they both leave the castle, beginning their journey. One day, they stop by a riverbank to water their horses and find dozens of bodies floating by. Immediately, Katappa realizes that this horror scene was caused by bandits who, in addition to looting the village, eliminated all the residents. Some time later, when they arrive in another village, the pair witness the arrival of the marauders, and the men of the village quickly grab their weapons to attack them. However, when they run towards the princess with the intention of capturing her, Devasena uses a veil to throw them off and attacks them with her sword. Seeing this beautiful woman in action, Bahubali is enchanted and cannot take his eyes off her. With bravery and an excellent skill in battle, the young woman eliminates all her enemies and wins the heart of the great warrior. When they enter the forest to investigate, Bahubali and Katappa encounter dozens of other invaders, and the pair team up to take them on. While fighting his opponents, the future king remembers Devasena's beauty and is so dazzled that he cannot hear Katappa's pleas for help. The commander is captured and asks Bahubali to throw a weapon at him, but the man's mind is in the clouds and he is unable to hear him. However, just as Katappa was about to be eliminated, Bahubali knocks down a tree that falls on the bandits, leaving his friend unharmed. He then eliminates one of the men who intended to make a surprise attack and asks for the old man's help to win Devasena's heart. Then, after the battle, Katappa approaches the princess and claims that Bahubali is his nephew. According to him, the man has been rejected by his family and needs a place to live. So the woman invites him to work in the castle and says she will train him to become a guard, as he appears physically strong. When they arrive at the palace, Devasena returns to her training routine to hone her skills as a warrior. Despite being the best archer in her entire kingdom, the young woman has not yet been able to shoot 2 arrows at once, but her brother, the king, claims she will soon be able to. In the courtyard, a few meters away, Kumara Varma tries to teach Bahubali how to wield a sword. However, the man shows no aptitude for being a warrior. So Varma holds his hand in order to help him, and, while he is distracted by the beauty of the princess, Bahubali accidentally breaks the trunk in half. However, in order not to raise suspicion about his true identity, Katappa gives the credit to Varma. The next morning, the princess will visit the fields of a nearby village to eliminate the wild boars that are destroying the crops. To help Bahubali train his skills, she orders Varma to take the man along on the hunt. Varma and the princess fight over who can hunt the most wild boar and shoot arrows at the animals. However, to Devasina's surprise, none of her arrows hit the target, while her competitor's arrows hit the boars straight on. Thanks to Bahubali, Varma even manages to deflect the princess's arrows and eliminates all the creatures single-handedly. This arouses the young woman's distrust, as she is considered the best archer in the whole kingdom. However, the results of the hunt are undeniable. Devasina then begins to suspect that Bahubali is responsible for Varma's victory and, upon observing his hands, claims that he has the calluses of a warrior who knows very well how to wield a sword. In order to test him, the princess forces him to fight a wild bull, but Bahubali lets go of his spear and allows himself to be hit by the animal. Immediately, Devasina rushes to help him, and when they arrive at the palace, the young woman stays by his side until he receives all the necessary medical care. A few days pass and Balaladeva receives the news that his brother is in the kingdom of Kuntala along with Katappa. When he learns that Bahubali is in love with the princess and sees the portrait of the beautiful woman, the prince hatches a plan to steal her away. Sivagami does not yet know that Bahubali is in love with Devasina, so Balaladeva tells his mother that he cannot stop thinking about that young woman. Feeling guilty for not giving the throne to her legitimate son, the queen mother promises that she will make the princess of Kuntala marry him. She then orders the prime minister to send a large amount of jewelry as a gift to the woman and to convey the marriage proposal to her. As the messenger reads Sivagami's words to the princess, Katappa listens to the whole conversation and feels proud of his queen as he believes that she has chosen Devasina as Bahubali's wife. However, to everyone's surprise, the young woman refuses the marriage proposal, as she finds it extremely arrogant of Sivagami to send that gigantic amount of jewelry in the hope of buying her as a daughter-in-law. So Devasina returns the request in full, and the queen mother is furious to receive the answer conveyed by the messenger. Blinded by hatred, the woman orders the prime minister to declare war on the kingdom of Kuntala. Just then, she is interrupted by her husband, who reveals that Bahubali is in Devasina's palace at that moment. Then Bijaladeva suggests that Sivagami order his son to capture the princess and take her to Mahishmati as a prisoner. That night, Katappa goes to his future king and tells him that his mother has chosen Devasina as his future wife, but the princess has refused the marriage proposal. On hearing this, Bahubali is happy as he wishes to make the young lady fall in love with him and not his crown. Suddenly, the warrior hears a suspicious noise and realizes that an enemy army is approaching the castle. Immediately, he walks towards Devasina's chambers to protect her. However, believing that Bahubali has other intentions with the princess, Varma attacks him. At that moment, the warrior's fury is aroused and he hurls a chariot in their direction. However, Varma soon discovers that the attack was aimed at the invaders who were sneaking up behind him. When he becomes aware of the invasion, the man rushes to sound the alarm while Bahubali and Katappa hold off the enemy army. During the battle, the king of Kuntala spots the warrior and soon discovers his true identity. Meanwhile, Varma is hiding in a room along with the women of the palace and Bahubali goes there to encourage him. The future king hands him a dagger and says that this is Varma's chance to become a true warrior. Inspired by his words, the man wields the dagger and, though wounded, uses the small weapon to eliminate his enemies, preventing the women from being attacked. Meanwhile, Devasina tries to eliminate the invaders who have entered the palace to capture her, but she can't shoot her arrows at a sufficient speed to stop them getting closer. The young woman was about to lose the battle when Bahubali appears and at once shoots 3 arrows at the enemy soldiers. After eliminating a large part of that troop, he teaches the princess how to shoot numerous arrows at the same time and together they easily manage to get rid of all their opponents. The couple then join Kuntala's warriors and, when the opposing army invades the castle, are attacked by a herd of flaming horned bulls. When the animals go their separate ways, the two groups clash and Bahubali proves to be a formidable warrior. Although he is not fighting on behalf of his kingdom, he manages to defeat the most enemies out of all the soldiers of Kuntala and uses the bulls as a vehicle to reach the dam. At this point, Bahubali leads a small group of men who attach some hooks to the wooden structure for the herd to destroy. In this way, the entire invading army is wiped out by the current and taken outside the kingdom's walls. As they witness the man's incredible power, all the villagers come to admire him and Katappa takes the opportunity to reveal to the king of Kuntala the real reason Bahubali has come to his castle. When she learns that she has won the heart of that mighty warrior, the princess rejoices. However, just then, Bahubali receives a message from his mother and reveals that his queen has ordered him to take Devasina as his prisoner. Furious, the young woman says she would rather be eliminated than give up her dignity. She then attacks him with a torch, and everyone learns that the man is the famous warrior Bahubali, who defeated the army of the dreaded Kalakias. He then reveals that he is Sivagami's son and tells her that the queen chose Devasena as his wife even though she did not know that Bahubali was in love with her. At that moment, the future king asks for the princess's hand in marriage and invites her to accompany him to his kingdom. As she is also in love with Bahubali, Devasena accepts the request and he promises that from that moment on, he will protect her with his own life. The next day, the couple prepares to leave and gets on a boat on their way to Mahishmati. After a few days of travel, they reach their destination and Katappa asserts that Devasena should not worry as it was all just a misunderstanding. Upon entering the palace, the princess asks for forgiveness for having insulted the queen and Sivagami accepts her as her daughter-in-law. However, when she finds out that the queen mother has chosen her as Balaladeva's bride, Devasena reveals that she has fallen in love with Bahubali and claims that a princess is the one who should choose whom she will marry. On hearing this, Sivagami feels her authority challenged once again and orders the guards to take the woman prisoner. However, before his mother's soldiers could lay hands on his bride, Bahubali speaks up and says that those who do any harm to the princess will feel his wrath. As such, the queen mother states that her son will have to choose between inheriting the throne and marrying Devasena. So, without hesitation, Bahubali chooses to honor his bride and becomes the commander of the army while Balaladeva is chosen as the next king. When coronation day arrives, Bahubali guides his brother's chariot to the holy throne and Balaladeva gets to fulfill his greatest dream. However, when Bahubali is appointed commander of the armed forces, all the people of Mahishmati applaud him and celebrate his rise. This arouses a lot of jealousy in Balaladeva as he knows that he will never be loved by the people of his kingdom. Shortly afterwards, Bahubali and Devasena marry and within the first few weeks of marriage the woman becomes pregnant. The couple then throws a party to celebrate the life of the baby in the princess's womb and the queen mother appears to give her blessing to the child. However, even though a few months have passed, she still harbors grievances about her son and ignores Bahubali's presence. After receiving the queen's blessings, Devasena receives a gift from Varma, who has gone to Mahishmati to visit the couple. Then King Balaladeva appears and states that, as a gift to the princess, he will relieve Bahubali of his duties as commander so that he can spend more time with his wife. Despite being frustrated by the news, Bahubali readily follows his king's orders, which leaves Devasena deeply annoyed. The woman then claims that it is her husband who should take over the throne of Mahishmati and her insolence further increases Sivagami's fury. A few days later, Setapati is appointed as the new commander of the army and uses his position at court to take advantage of the women in the castle. However, just as he was about to touch the princess, the young woman takes the dagger that is at the man's waist and cuts the fingers off his hand. Immediately, Devasena is brought to court to stand trial and uses all her defiance to defend herself against the charges. A few minutes later, Bahubali is informed about what happened and immediately interrupts the trial in defense of his wife. Seeing the woman in handcuffs, he becomes angry and asks Devasena what happened. After hearing her, the warrior cuts off Setapati's head. He then frees the princess. As the trial had not yet taken place, their attitude is interpreted as treason to the crown and the couple is banished from the castle. Despite no longer being a member of royalty, the former commander says he will serve and sacrifice his life for Mahishmati. When he leaves the palace, the warrior is warmly welcomed by his people, who feel honored to be able to live alongside him. Over the next few months, Bahubali performs menial labor like any other servant and Devasena is satisfied with the humble life they have come to lead. Thanks to his intelligence and clarity of thought, the warrior is able to create tools to facilitate the work of his companions and make them even more productive. Overcome with envy, Balaladeva observes his brother interacting with his people and realizes that as long as he is alive, Bahubali will always be considered king. To solve this problem, he sends a man to eliminate him and Varma tries to stop them but is blocked by the crowd. Hours later, the evil man goes to the king's presence and reveals that Bahubali managed to escape the attack unharmed. On discovering that Balaladeva has issued an order to eliminate his own brother, Bijaladeva claims that he is going too far and tries to dissuade him from this idea. However, he ends up being attacked by his son, who claims that he will also eliminate him if he decides to stand in his way. When the tyrant king leaves, Varma, who was hiding listening to the whole conversation, goes to help the man and Bijaladeva convinces him that eliminating Balaladeva is the only way to save Bahubali and his wife. Then the old man says that he will help him in this mission and opens a secret passage so that Varma and his companions can sneak into the king's room during the night. However, on reaching there, the man realizes that he has fallen into an ambush. After all his allies are eliminated, he attacks the soldiers and tries to hit the king, but is struck down by Bijaladeva. He then discovers that it was all a trick to frame Bahubali for trying to eliminate his brother in order to usurp the throne. After eliminating Varma, Balaladeva requests the presence of the Queen Mother in his room and, with the testimony of his father, accuses Bahubali of sending his ally to eliminate him. On hearing this, Sivagami goes into shock as she could not believe that her most honorable son would be capable of committing such treachery. Despite this, she does not intend to relieve him of his punishment and claims that Bahubali's elimination must appear to be an accident so as not to cause revolt among her people. That night, Katappa is told that he will have to do the dirty work, and since he has sworn to serve the crown, he has no choice but to follow the queen's orders, even if it causes him gigantic pain. A few hours later, Bahubali is informed that Katappa is being punished for betraying royalty and rushes to him to save him. Meanwhile, his wife is giving birth to their first child. When Bahubali appears and sees his great friend tied to a fire, he immediately frees him. At that moment, the warrior is hit by numerous arrows and Katappa tries to convince him to flee, as a group of barbarians approaches. However, Bahubali refuses to abandon him, and after removing his shackles, the warrior sets off to war. He eliminates several enemies single-handedly and soon after, Katappa joins him in that battle. With the same sword that the man uses to attack his opponents, he strikes Bahubali in the back and, before dying, the warrior stands like a true hero. Then Balaladeva arrives on the scene and, while striking the lifeless body of his brother, celebrates his victory. At that moment, the king tells him that everything was just a frame-up to incriminate him, and Katappa realizes the grave mistake he has made. When he returns to the palace, Sivagami's loyal servant claims to have followed her orders and reveals that the queen has been deceived. Suddenly, Devasena enters the palace with her newborn son on her lap and Katappa tells her what happened. Soon after, the king and his father appear, so Bijaladeva orders that the child and his mother also be eliminated. Now that she knows the truth, Sivagami walks up to her daughter-in-law and asks for forgiveness for all the harm she has caused her. The woman laments the fact that she has condemned her beloved son unjustly and, before all the people of Mahishmati, declares Amarendra Bahubali's son as king, whom she names Mahendra Bahubali. She then condemns Balaladeva to elimination. However, before this order becomes public knowledge, Bijaladeva orders the guards to eliminate the queen and the baby. However, Katappa helps the woman escape, but Devasena stays behind as her physical condition prevents her from running away. As a last wish, she asks Sivagami to save Mahendra's life and states that she will wait until her son returns to save her. As the woman was about to flee across the river, her son shot an arrow into her back and Sivagami fell into the water with the child. After committing so many atrocities, Balaladeva was still not satisfied and because of the rage he felt against Devasena, he ordered his soldiers to destroy the kingdom of Kuntala. Everyone thought Mahendra Bahubali was eliminated, but his grandmother managed to save him before he was swept away. 25 years have passed and, now that he has rescued his mother, the heir is preparing to claim his right to the throne. After gathering some allies, Bahubali and his army march towards Mahishmati and Balaladeva soon prepares for battle. Looking through a spyglass, he spots Devasena approaching with the head of Badrudu, his younger brother, in her hands and right behind her is Bahubali. At this point, the king realizes that he is facing a great threat and is visibly shaken. While holding Badrudu's head, the man promises that he will avenge his brother's elimination and orders his soldiers to attack the enemy army. At this point, Bahubali activates a trap to take out his opponents and Katappa leads the warriors towards the battlefield. During the war, Balaladeva appears in his chariot and, after eliminating Devasena's brother, he captures her once again. He then takes the woman back to the palace. When he realizes that his mother has been taken away, Bahubali goes after her, but before he could reach the castle, the drawbridge is pulled down. At that instant, hundreds of arrows are launched in his direction, but Katappa and his men appear to protect him. As there is no other way into the palace, Bahubali has the idea of using the palm trees to throw the warriors inside. To avoid getting hurt, they split into small groups and use their shields to form a circle to protect themselves during the fall. After the invasion, Bahubali uses a metal hammer to destroy the chains holding up the drawbridge. In this way, his allies manage to storm the castle and, once again, the warrior frees his mother. Then Avantika lights the torch so that Devasena can walk to Rudra's temple and fulfill the ritual to bring prosperity to her son's reign. Meanwhile, Bahubali and Balaladeva face each other in a final battle. After being knocked off his chariot, the current king of Mahishmati attacks his nephew and destroys his sword during the battle. He then drops a catapult on him, but Bahubali is able to dodge the attack and lands a powerful punch on his enemy. At that moment, Balaladeva chains his neck, but the heir to the throne destroys the statue and manages to break free. He then attacks his uncle with a tree trunk. To prevent Devasena from completing her walk, Bijaladeva orders the guards to set the bridge on fire. However, the king's statue is destroyed during the duel between the two warriors and his head comes off, taking the place that once belonged to the bridge. In this way, Devasena manages to continue her walk and Balaladeva takes the opportunity to take out on his nephew all the hatred he felt for Bahubali. The tyrant claims that this time he himself will have the pleasure of eliminating him with his own hands. However, after freeing himself from its clutches, the legitimate heir wraps his fists with the chains that were used to imprison his mother and uses them to strike the man until he no longer has the strength to fight. He then throws the man into the fire pit and strikes his leg with a sword. Unable to get up, Balaladeva becomes helpless as Devasena approaches and uses the torch that is on her head to set her enemy ablaze. Now that the reign of that cruel ruler has come to an end, Bahubali can finally take his place on the throne and becomes the king of Mahishmati. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.